So you have some shaky footage. You shot a wedding, you're shooting a documentary or something, and we're going to ignore that this is all overexposed, okay? That's not what this video is about. But you got something here that's I almost said that's overexposed. You got something here that is some pretty shaky footage. That's not something you want to deliver to the client. So what do we do? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to fix that today. First thing you're going to want to do is come up here to Effects. We're going to click that. We are going to come over here and search for Warp Stabilizer. And we're going to drag that right onto our clip. Now, here's the thing. If you just set this and forget this, you're going to have a bad time. It makes weird results right out of the gate. So through my years of editing, there are a couple little tips and tricks that I've learned. Let's see how this did right out of the gate just as a test. Not bad. Not bad. I think that would be acceptable. But a lot of times what you'll notice, especially if you've been shooting on mirrorless cameras, is that this footage can get kind of like a wobbly, warpy effect to it. And it looks pretty nauseating. So the first trick that we're going to do to fix that is come over here under the Warp Stabilizer effect. We're going to go to Smoothness, and we're just going to set this to 2%. Once we do that, it's going to take a second to restabilize here, and you'll see that it actually cropped out of the image a little bit. That's because every time you use an instance of Warp Stabilizer, it is going to crop in on your footage to make room for stabilizing that image. So let's play that through now. To my eye, that looks a little bit nicer. That looks a little bit more natural. Maybe you want it more smooth. That's totally fine. We're going to leave this one on Stabilize, Crop, Auto Scale, because otherwise, if we do Stabilize only, and let's drag this all the way up to, oh gosh, we don't need 120%, 99%. You're going to see some of those edges kind of peeking through. That's what I was talking about. That's why it needs to crop in on that image for us. So we're just going to leave that, we're just going to leave that as Stabilize, Crop, Auto Scale. If you feel the need to zoom in a little bit more after that, you can come here to Additional Scale, and that's just going to scale it up. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can do that up here in your regular scale properties, but usually I will just leave that alone. A couple of important notes, though, to consider here is that if you have your footage that's larger than your composition, so for example, if this is a 1080p timeline and I import 4K footage, it's going to say, I have no idea what's happening. So the way we fix that is through nesting. So your clip is not unable to be stabilized. You just have to nest it. So you come down here, you right click your clip. You right click your clip. What the hell? You right click your clip and you click nest. You can name it whatever you want. We'll hit OK. And boom, from there, you'll be able to stabilize that. Another thing that I want to talk about here is if you are getting a lot of that warpy, warbly sort of look that we tend to get from mirrorless cameras, all hope is not lost. So we're going to come back here to where we initially set our smoothness to 99%. We're going to set that back to 2%, but instead of subspace warp, we are going to click Position, Scale, Rotation. And a lot of times what that'll do is it just gives you that tiny, tiny little bit of boost that you need to make it look a little bit nicer. Let's go ahead and click Analyze. And just like that, we have a clip that is stabilized through Position, Scale, and Rotation instead of Warp Stabilizer. Now, this method will not look as good as Warp Stabilization typically. So 9 times out of 10, you're going to want to stick with that Warp Stabilizer. But if you're getting that weird effect, just pop it on over to Position, Scale, and Rotation. No one's going to know. The client's not going to know. I might know. If I see the footage, I'll comment on your video and say, I know what you did there. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. Just a little quick tip to help push you through some of those rough moments in the edit where your footage might not be the most stabilized. If you like this type of content, please do me a huge favor and consider subscribing. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, catch you later.